Thank you so much for joining us so early in the morning in the US, and especially in your retreat time. This is very, very kind. You're still in winter retreat, I believe. So we are so very honored to have you at Tushita. This very auspicious time, Losar time, the days of miracles. And we are still honoring Lama Yeshe. It was Lama Yeshe's anniversary of passing away on March 3rd, on Losar Day this year. Lama Yeshe, I believe, passed away on Losar in 1984. And we are so very honored to have you here today to tell us stories, anything you would like to share about Lama Yeshe. And I think most of the audience is very familiar with Venerable Thubten Chödron La, but do you mind if I introduce you just very shortly?
Sure.
Is that okay? Yeah. I'm sorry. So Venerable Thubten Chödron is the author of many, many books. I'm sure you've seen her books somewhere and read probably already more than one of them, and is a teacher for many decades and the founder and the abbess of Sravasti Abbey. This is one of the first Tibetan Buddhist training monasteries for Western monks and nuns in the US. It's a very special place. I wish I could go there. And I'm sure Venerable Thubten Chödron La will share a little bit about Sravasti Abbey as well. We would be very curious. So Venerable Thubten Chödron La came to India, I think in the 70s. And then ordained in 1977 and became a fully ordained nun, a bhikshuni, as we call a fully ordained nun, in 1987, and then studied extensively with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Circumstantial Rinpoche, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and many Tibetan masters. So, as I mentioned, Venerable Thubten Chödron La has been the author of many books and is assisting His Holiness the Dalai Lama currently in writing and publishing the Library of Wisdom and Compassion. It's a multi-volume series of Buddhist books. We are so very honored. Thank you so much, Venerable Thubten Chödron La, and I give the microphone to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Venerable. It's, it's really a privilege to be able, thank you for inviting me, because it's an privilege to be able to talk about Lama. Of course, he was very dear to my heart. Before we do that, let's just take a minute and come back to our breath and let our mind calm down. And then we'll cultivate our motivation and go from there. And then let's generate our bodhicitta motivation and open our heart to all sentient beings, especially in this time of war in Europe, and to cultivate a sense of compassion for everybody involved in this situation, no matter whether we agree with their political ambitions or not. They're still sentient beings who want happiness and not suffering. And they've also been kind to us. And they also have the potential to become fully enlightened beings. So, opening our heart to all these beings, let's have the aspiration to become fully awakened ourselves so we can be of the greatest benefit to them. Okay, so open your eyes, come out of your meditation. So it's hard to know where to start in talking about Lama. It will definitely be a personal account because, it's somebody who was quite pivotal in my own life. And to really give you a sense of who he was, then you're going to hear how he affected me and how he guided me. So unfortunately, you're going to have to hear about me too, although you want to hear about Lama, because if I don't do that, then you're just going to get some kind of academic presentation rather than a personal one, So I met Lama in 1977. And there was a course in Lake Arrowhead, California. I had been to Nepal and India before. And interestingly enough, the place where we got the furthest in our trekking in Nepal was Thami, where Rinpoche was born. Yeah, of course, didn't know Rinpoche, didn't know anything about Dharma at that time. But when I saw the notice about a retreat, given by 2 Tibetan lamas, I thought, well, because I was teaching at that time, so I thought it's summer vacation, let's go. Okay, so I went, and Nick Rinpoche and Thubten were the Westerners who were helping there. And I came in the room and there was a woman with a shaved head and a man wearing a skirt. And I thought, oh, okay. And I should tell you what I looked like too. Okay, so I had hair down to my waist, lots of hair. And I had just had my ears pierced, so I had big earrings. I had been to India before and come back with different clothes, so I had a full skirt. That was the style at the time, a long skirt, very multicolored with bright Indian colors, and a peasant blouse. And I walked in there thinking I was really, like something. And and of course, that kind of thing doesn't impress the lamas at all. One thing that they said during that course, one of the first things they said really impressed me. And that was, they said, you don't have to believe anything we say. And I thought, good, now I can listen. Because I was so tired, this was the 70s. I was so tired of people telling me the absolute truth with a capital T, that if they had said they had that, I would have said, bye-bye. But they really said, you're intelligent people, think about the teachings, put them into practice, and then make your own decision. So that's how I got interested in Buddhism, because we were encouraged to think for ourselves. and not just have blind faith. Okay. So they really emphasize that. So I listened to the teachings, and apparently this course, it was the summer of '77, was one of the first ones where they taught emptiness in more depth. So some of the old students were quite excited about this course. Of course, they didn't know when it started that it was going to be about emptiness. But it was interesting at that time, the way Rinpoche and Lama worked together, because Rinpoche was the one that said, look at the evil thought of the 8 worldly dharmas attached to the happiness of only this life. And he pounded that into us. And when Rinpoche wasn't talking about that, it was the suffering of, the suffering of samsara. And we would, the last 2 weeks, take the 8 Mahayana precepts in the morning, and we would kneel down ready to take them. And then Rinpoche would go on for 45 minutes about the suffering of samsara. When you're sitting there kind of crouched down in a tent with fleas crawling all over you. And yes, Rinpoche, we got it. There's samsara suffering. So Rinpoche was the one that really hit it, about the nature of samsara to us. Lama was the one who came in and made us laugh and was full of loving kindness. And so you have the good cop and the bad cop kind of, working together. But Lama had this really amazing ability to tune in to us and to know where we were at as Westerners. Okay, so this was still very early on. He, hadn't had Western students, for so long, but he had this ability to really sense the cultural differences and to have empathy for us. And it was also, interestingly enough, the time when women's liberation was first beginning to get discussed. And so he heard about this thing of women's liberation. And we had heard that Lama had been the abbess of a nunnery in his previous life. So people were quite excited about that. But when he talked about women's liberation, he was saying, yes, women should be liberated. But he wasn't referring to women being freed from the usual role of being, washing dishes and baby bottles and those kinds of things. He was saying women should become fully awakened Buddhas. And he really pushed that. And everybody was really kind of shocked. Okay, but he was quite strong, and he treated his male and female students very equally, I felt. That isn't necessarily the case. Tibetan culture is not like that, but Lama was. Okay. And he also had this amazing ability to make us laugh at ourselves. Yeah. And to be able to look at how crazy our mind was, how nutty we were. And instead of going, oh, I'm so terrible, he made us laugh. Yeah, and laugh at ourselves. And that is something that has really affected me. And I think when I give Dharma talks now, or try to give Dharma talks, that comes out, a lot of exaggerating our how crazy our mind is, so that we can laugh at it instead of criticizing ourselves or feeling down and feeling inadequate. Okay, so that ability to laugh at ourselves. And he also, one of the things he noticed about Westerners was what he used to call the poor quality view. So this thing of laughing at ourselves and the poor quality view, they kind of go together, because he saw that despite, people's education, people's skill, living in a modern Western country, most of us came to the Dharma with a feeling of, poor quality. We are poor quality. We aren't good enough. We don't have enough. We don't do well enough. Something is wrong with us. We, are incompetent. We don't measure up in one way or another. Okay. And he understood that quite well. And I think that's one of the reasons why he introduced Tantra to us. He didn't go to highest class Tantra at the beginning, because it was probably kind of difficult. That was too much. But the Kriya Tantra and the idea of visualizing a Buddha that you want to become in front of you, and then that Buddha dissolving into you, and you imagining yourself as somebody who is free of anger, free of attachment, somebody who has impartial love and compassion for everybody, somebody who has the wisdom, knowing emptiness. And to get us to crack open this very tight thing of how poor quality we are. Okay. Do any of you resonate with that, having poor quality view? Yeah. Oh, only 3 people. 4. Oh, okay. Yeah, a few more of you. Yeah. So my experience is that this is, in addition to the ignorance, this is one of the chief obstacles that Westerners have in practicing the Dharma, is that we spend so much time criticizing ourselves, the self-talk that goes on about how bad I am, how inadequate I am, what a failure I am, I'm not good enough, other people are better than me, I'm never gonna make it, I can't become a Buddha, everybody else can. Look, everybody's sitting in perfect meditation position, not moving, they're all in samadhi, and I am the only one sitting here restless, and I can't sit still, and my mind is crazy, and it's only me, and I'm just like, I'm a catastrophe. Okay. And that really, I think, is our biggest obstacle to practice, because we don't give ourselves a chance. We're so full of this negative self-talk. And Lama pointed this out to us. Yeah. I mean, he saw it and he pinpointed it. And that's what he called poor quality view. And then he made us be able to laugh at ourselves for having that poor quality view. Okay. So it was incredibly skillful, because every time we would start getting into that thing of low self-esteem and putting ourselves down, Lama would talk about it, exaggerate us, and have us all laughing. Okay, so incredibly skillful at opening us to be more receptive to the Dharma. Okay, but Lama was not only the one who made us laugh. Yeah, he could also be really serious. Okay, so sometimes when we messed up, he would give it to us. Yeah. And I remember one time in particular, there was the Western Sangha, and then the lay people there. So he was talking to the Westerners, and he was, I forget what he was talking about, but the lay people were laughing and laughing and laughing, and the Sangha knew what he meant. And we were sitting there like this, because he was giving it to us. I don't know what, as a group we had done. But, the people who were new, laughing, the people who knew what he meant, like this, okay? And there were times even when there was puja in together with all the Kopan monks. And he would give it sometimes to the monks when they were messing up. Sometimes he really, gave it to us. I remember one time with the little monks, well, not always the little monks, sometimes the bigger ones too. When, it was puja time, and do you know that one? Yeah. Yeah, you're falling asleep in your meditation. And so Lama, there were these little, the water bowls, and he would have the monks put a water bowl with water in it on top of their head while puja was going on. Okay, so if they fell asleep, it became, they not only got wet, but the bowl would, crash on the floor and make noise, and everybody would laugh. Okay, so, this is the way he got people to stay awake during puja. Now, we were a very motley group who came, in the early days. This was the time of hippies, and most of us were traveling, for some time, and we had gotten to Kathmandu, and we had heard about Freak Street. I don't know, do they still have Freak Street, or they probably, they still have, and it's still called Freak Street. Okay, so, we had all headed for Freak Street, and, and you could get drugs there, and, as well as chocolate cake. And so everybody was, full of drugs and chocolate cake, and kind of came up to Kopan, kind of, intoxicated, stoned, we came up stoned. And there was Lama, this Tibetan Lama, and everybody's kind of looking and, well, who's this guy? And he was teaching us to meditate. And then people would raise their hand and say, Lama, what do you think about meditating on drugs? Getting stoned first and then meditating. Because we all thought that would be a great idea. And Lama would look at us and he said, you're already hallucinating, dear. You don't need to take drugs. Yeah. And what he meant was, due to our ignorance, our self-centered mind, we were hallucinating. The more you get into Dharma practice, the more you realize that everything you're seeing does not exist the way it appears to you, that in fact we are hallucinating. And we just, of course, when Lama said that, we all laughed. We didn't quite understand what he meant, but, as time went on, you began to see, oh, he was right. Because people wanted Lama to take drugs and he wouldn't have any of it. Okay, so you're already hallucinating, dear. Then, when he would talk about loving kindness, then somebody would inevitably raise their hand and say, Lama, you're talking about having compassion and loving kindness for everybody. But what about Hitler? What about Stalin? Yeah. What about Mao Zedong? And Lama would look and he would say, they means well, dear. And we would just go, what? What? You know, he called everybody dear, but saying that those people means well, this was Lama's English, you know, that they meant well. Yeah. They were just trying to be happy and not suffer. And, you know, of course, we had come from a culture where these people were vilified and they were evil incarnate. Okay. Yeah. They're all dead now. Now we have Putin. Okay. We have Trump. We have other people who have taken their place. But Lama would say, they means well, dear. And that just shocked us. Yeah. How could those people who were so brutal and afflicted, you know, so much suffering on other beings, how could they mean well? And so he really opened our mind to be able to look at what samsara was about and how everybody wanted happiness. They didn't want suffering, but in their search for happiness, they were totally confused, totally ignorant, and went about trying to be happy in a way that only created more suffering for others and for themselves, and planted the seeds of so much negative karma in their own mind streams, such that after death, they were going to suffer incredibly. And so he made us open our minds to see that this was the situation of each and every sentient being. And not only were these people just trying to be happy, but we were not any better than them. There was no reason for us to put our nose in the air and say, I would never bomb other countries. I would never, you know, have concentration camps. I'm better than these people. You know, he made it very clear that we still have the seeds of ignorance, anger, and attachment in our mind. This lifetime, for a short period of time, we have some space to learn the Dharma. Yeah, but we are not realized beings. So we should not think, oh, I'm special. I'm a Dharma practitioner. I would never do what Hitler did. No, Lama was saying, you be careful because you have those tendencies in your mind stream too. So use the time that you have right now to change, to transform your mind. Yeah, he was very, very clear about that. What else? Oh, also when we messed up. So very early on, you know, when I was a baby nun, okay, so I had only been ordained a very short time. And I think Elizabeth was Gegu at that time, or somebody was. And they said, Lama wants you to lead the November course, you know, the 1 month November course, to be the Westerner that leads it. And I was, you know, I didn't know the Dharma very well. I was a baby nun, and I was, you know, so I went to Lama to check that, you know, was that really true that he wanted me to lead it? And he said yes. And then I looked at him and I said, but Lama, I don't know the Dharma well enough. I can't do this. I really cannot do this. And he looked at me and he said, "You're selfish." Okay, Lama, I'll do it. As it wound up, he sent me to Italy instead, but, like, he just cut it. Yeah, he just told me what my mind was doing. And so this was a skill that Lama had. He could talk, he knew exactly how to handle different people, okay? Who to be gentle and kind to, and who to like bang, yeah. So I was one of the thick-skulled ones that he banged with, because that was the only way to get through to me, okay? Because I came to the Dharma thinking I was a nice person, yeah. Okay, a few faults, but I was a really nice person, and I had no problem with anger. Well, I got angry a little bit, but it wasn't very much anger, and I really didn't have a problem with anger. But all these other people around me had horrible problems with anger. Oh my goodness, they were just exploding, and but I didn't have that kind of bad problem with anger. So, I'm pretty thick-skulled. So what did he do? I'm still a baby nun. I hadn't been ordained very long at all, maybe a year and a half. So this was in like 78, 79, I ordained in 77. And he sent me to Italy because they needed somebody who I was supposed to be the Gegu, and then Nicole was going to come and be the SPC. So I got to Italy, and Nicole wasn't coming, so I had two jobs. I was the Gegu of the macho Italian monks, and I was the SPC. Okay, so Celiana, you're translating. Maybe you understand. I'm sure you understand. So if you know anything about macho Italian monks, the last person on earth they want to be the Gegu, the disciplinarian, yeah, the one that makes them make sure that they're up in the morning and they're at puja and so on. The last person they want is an independent American woman. Okay. So it was kind of, at the time when I was there, sometimes it was kind of like Los Alamos, where they tested the nuclear bomb in the desert in the US. Me and the Italian monks, and, because that was the only way Lama could get through to me that I had a problem with anger, because I didn't see it at all. I couldn't see it. Yeah. So he had to put me in that situation. So the way the Lamas have trained me is always, let's drop her in, a body, in a ocean, drop her in the ocean, and let's see if she can swim. Okay. So they dropped me in the ocean of working in Italy, and and so it got so tough. It was really, really tough. So at one point, let me give you some examples. Okay, so there was one monk. One time I went into the meditation hall to do my practices, and there was a monk there, and he looked at me and he said, "You can't come in here. Yeah, I'm in here, and I have precepts not to be alone in a room with a woman. So please leave." excuse me, you know, this is a meditation hall. I just want to do my practices. Telling me to leave. So this kind of stuff happened a lot. You know, I was working on a project, and then one time, one monk came in and he took the project I was working on off my desk and it said, you know, you can't do this. You're going to do a terrible job. So, okay, I won't go into all the details, but at one point, oh, so after this thing with this monk who said you have to leave the room, I happened to be talking to Lama on the telephone, and I told him about it. And his response was, where does that monk think he's going to go where there are no women? Yeah. So he, you know, he had this ability, you know, one sentence, and he just clarified the whole situation. Yeah, he didn't go on and on and on. One sentence. Where does he think he's going to go where there are no women? So anyway, the situation was getting pretty tense for me. I was very unhappy. And so after, I don't know, a year, almost a year and a half, again, I happened to be on the phone with Lama, or I wrote to him, or somehow I communicated. No, it was on the phone. And I said, Lama, this will show you the level of my mind, the kind of student Lama had to deal with. Lama, I'm here. These people are treating me so poorly. They're making me go to the lower realm. They make me angry. My anger is their fault, and they're making me go to the lower realm by getting angry. Yeah. So Lama, please, I don't want to go to the lower realms. You know, I don't want to be with these people who make me angry. So can I leave? That's the kind of person he had, disciple he was dealing with. So again, he said, you know, I told you he had these one sentence things. So I said, Lama, can I leave? Please, can I leave? And he said, I'll be there in 6 months, dear. We'll talk about it then. I'm like, am I going to make it 6 months? I don't know if I'll make it 6 months here. Okay. But you see, drop her in the deep end and see if she can swim. Yeah, so I didn't get pampered that much. So finally he came. Yeah, he came. And just about that time, or just before that time, I had gotten a call from my parents, who I hadn't spoken to in years, because when I ordained, they didn't want to talk to me anymore. I got a phone call from them. At first I thought, oh, somebody must have died. Why are my parents calling me? And the thing was, my brother was getting married and they wanted me to come for the wedding. Yeah, but I had to look normal. So Lama was coming to the Institute at that time. And of course I wanted to leave. And so I had told him about this phone call from my parents and them wanting me to go to my brother's wedding, and should I go or what? And again, he looked at me and he said, you go, dear, and you be California girl, because I grew up in California. You go and be California girl. Now, I don't know if any of you knew what California girl was back in those days. Okay, it was going back to what I had looked like at my first Dharma course, you know, and California, because I grew up, you know, you go to the beach and you anyway, the whole scene. And I said, Lama, I don't want to be California girl. And he said, you put on lay clothes and you go be California girl when you're with your parents. Okay, Lama. So, yeah. So the women at the Institute, Ciliana, your sister, Tiziana, was one of them. They brought out clothes and gave me clothes so I would look normal. And my hair grew, maybe to about that much, because if I had come with a shaved head in robes in the middle of Los Angeles International Airport, my parents, my mother especially, would have just started crying and going hysterical. Then it's not an exaggeration. So I went back and somehow managed that. And then I came back to India, which is where I wanted to be. Okay, and then, what else can I tell you? Then Lama had the EEC-1, the first Enlightenment, EEC, what is it? Enlightenment celebration. That was one of the E's. What was the first E? Enlightenment. No, it was EEC, Enlightenment Experience Celebration. Yeah, anyway, he was calling all of the Sangha and all of the, the older students to come to India, and we were going to have teachings and so on together. And it was, again, very skillful of him. He didn't let on always how he was training you, but he got us all together. Now, some of you may think, well, all the Sangha, we have the same hairdo, we wear the same clothes, we say the same mantras, we have the same teacher, so we must all be very much alike. Wrong. Okay, Sangha members listening in, do you agree? We are very, very different as personalities, very different. But he put us all together. Yeah, this was 1982. Put us all together in very tight circumstances. Things were not as nice in India in those days as they are now. So still sitting on the grass mats and everything. I'm going to note something. Just thought of something else to tell you. So he had us all come together and squeeze in together during the teachings. Westerners, we like our own little space, but we were all squished together. And we had to learn how to be together, and how to give space to other people, how to not just meditate on love and kindness for all these kind sentient beings, and then come out of our meditation and it's like, you're sitting in my space, move over. And you came late, can't you come on time? Or you need to take a shower, or whatever it was. Okay, so again, he always emphasized to us applying the Dharma in our daily life, not being, yogis, because all of us who came in the early days, we heard about enlightenment and we thought, and then we heard, oh, you can get enlightened, Tantra, so, you can do it in this life. Okay, so we're very busy people. We have a lot of things we want to do because we want to travel to all these different places and do things. So, but we want to get enlightened really quickly, okay? because we have a long list and, we got to check off enlightenment and, kind of cut down on our list. So we all wanted to go in the mountains and be yogis and yoginis and just meditate. Yeah, we were going to meditate and have open hearts for all these kind sentient beings and realize emptiness and transform ourselves into Tara and Chenrezig and float in the sky and so on. So that's what we wanted to do. So what did Lama do with this first batch of Westerners? Well, he sent Marcel to open a business in Kathmandu, an import-export business. He sent Yeshe Kadro to Australia to open a Dharma center. He sent people to do various jobs. Yeah, none of us were sent to the mountains to just meditate, okay? And you got done with one job, you were sent to another job. So I was sent to Italy, then I got to come back for the first EEC. And then I was sent to France to help start Dorji Pomo Nunnery. Yeah. And then, yeah. Anyway, was it then? No, it was before we got sent to Dorji Pomo. I had visited France and I wanted to leave Italy, so I was going to leave, and then, but Lama and Rinpoche were at Vajrayogini Institute in France. This was before actually Dorji Pomo started, and Lama asked me at that time if I would come to Vajrayogini and be the SPC there. And at that time, I was in Italy and just about to leave. And I was fried, totally burnt out, And I had heard so much about, you're always supposed to do what your Lama tells you to. Yeah. And I just couldn't. I couldn't. Yeah. And I had also heard that when you can't do what your Lama says, you go and explain yourself, and kind of ask permission. So I was fried. So I just went to Lama and I said, this took a lot of courage on my part to say, Lama, I really can't, I don't have the energy to go from being the Gegu and SPC in one place to being the SPC in another Dharma center. I really can't do it. So he understood. He understood, and he let me go back to India. Yeah, I felt really bad, but I had to be truthful. Anyway, then after India, then I got sent back to France. Okay, so I was living in France, and we were just starting Nalanda and starting Dorji Pomo, and all of us were quite young in ordination. I mean, of course, we thought we had been ordained, so long. It's like, by that time, I was already 5 years, and Venerable Sankhe Kadro was 8 years, and so we all thought, we were. But we thought like that, but we also felt like really shaky, because none of us knew what we were really doing and how do you start something. And yeah, so it was quite a confusing time for us. Anyway, there were different things that were happening, and there was something going on that I didn't feel quite comfortable about. But I had also heard in the teachings that you never want to criticize a Vajra brother or sister. You never, first of all, it's tantric value not to criticize them. And second of all, you never want to create a distance between guru and disciple. So I went to see Lama, to ask my different questions and things like that. And then he started asking me about the situation there and how people were getting along and what people were doing. And so there was this situation where I just did not feel comfortable what was going on, but I didn't want to criticize, a Vajra brother or sister, and I didn't want to create a distance between guru and disciple. So I said, Lama, there's something that's happening, but I don't want to cause problems by telling you. Yeah, create this distance. And he looked at me, and he, again, these one-time things by Lama, and he said, I want to help this person. So to help them, I need to know what's happening. Tell me, you're not telling me with a bad motivation. You're telling me because I want to help them. And so that really clarified for me that if I have a good motivation, which I did, I definitely did not want to cause harm to that person or those people. That he clarified that then with that kind of motivation, I can say something with the hope that it will help improve the situation. And, especially in telling Lama that then he would be able to help those people. Okay, so then I told him, and and he spoke with them later. But that was, again, something really clarifying for me. Short, sweet, one sentence. Like, here it is, dear, So what I found as time went on, well, okay, so Lama died in 1984, I guess, or 84. And we were all devastated. I was in Switzerland at the time because Senshub Serkum Rinpoche was teaching there, and we got the news that Lama had died. And so I was the one that they told. And at that time, I was, Venerable Sangye Kadro had left, so I was the director at Dorje Pomo. So I was the person that had to call Dorje Pomo and tell all the nuns that Lama had passed away. Not my favorite job, okay? But I had to do it. And I did it. And what that whole experience of, when your teacher dies, what it did for me was it showed me that I had to step up to the plate, because I still had ringing in my ears Lama saying to me, you're selfish. Yeah. So there was no time to sit there and feel sorry for myself because my teacher had died. It was my time that I had to do whatever I could to, in my own teeny tiny small way, to carry on Lama's legacy. Yeah, I had to step up to the plate. Okay. And it was an interesting thing with my teachers, because again, I always wanted to go to the mountains and do long retreat. Okay, maybe not the mountains. I could go to the desert. I could go somewhere else, as long as I had heating and aircon and, a kettle to make tea and a refrigerator and everything. I could do my retreat anywhere. So, yeah. And so I would always be going to Lama or to my other teachers and saying, can I do retreat? And they would always, the answer, no matter which teacher of mine I asked, the answer was always, well, especially the way Lama answered it, okay, was, yes, dear, you can do retreat, but right now go teach. And all my other teachers, when I said, can I go to retreat? It was always, yes, later, now you go and teach. And it was always this thing of like, but I don't feel qualified, you know? But Lama had, after Lama died, it was like, okay, I have to step up and do something. And Jackie Keeley really helped me with that, because I was talking with her about it one time, and she said that all of us who were Lama's disciples, we were all like little beams of light coming out from Lama's heart. You know, he was like the big sun, and each of us was one little beam of light. And so we had to go out in our own way and share whatever Lama had taught us. Yeah. You know, what he had taught us, not share what he hadn't taught us, you know, not go out and pretend to be great grand gurus or anything. And so when she presented it like that, then I saw, yeah, this is really what Lama did want us to do. And it made me remember at the end of the, I think it was the first Dharma, you know, EEC. Yeah. And we had just finished, you know, teachings and a deer retreat and a retreat and everything. And Lama was talking to all of us, you know, the whole group. And he had his mala. He often had his mala, and he would be doing something with it when he taught. And he looked at us and he said, you just did a retreat. You did so many mantra on this and that. Okay, but your mantra, dear, is, and he picked up his mala and he held it and he said, I am the servant of others. 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 This is your mantra. Okay, short, sweet, whammo. You know, I am the servant of others. I am not some big thing that, you know, people should serve and think highly of. And, you know, if you're on the Bodhisattva path, you're the servant of others. So, you know, there was that got hammered in too. So what I found is after Lama died, I realized how little I had understood of what he taught. Yeah. And there was this feeling of, you know, I had really, because my mind was so obscured, because I was so full of defilements, I could not take in everything Lama was teaching us. Yeah. But what happened after he passed away is different things he said would come in my mind. You know, those short, sweet little things would come in my mind and guide me. So I developed what I called, I made this up, what I called my 911 practice. So in the US, if you have an emergency, you dial on your phone 911. That's the emergency number. So what happened is whenever my mind was going bonkers about something, I would just do a mental 911 to Lama. You know, emergency, Lama, emergency. My mind is crazy. I need some help. And then something would come to my mind about this was the antidote to practice. You know, of all the teachings I had heard, do this one at this time. And I would do it. And my mind would calm down. And very often, that little thing that Lama told me to do when I would do my 911 call was the thing that came to my mind was, keep it simple, dear. Keep it simple, dear. And I would see that whenever my mind, you know, when I was angry, when I was jealous, when I was, you know, competing with other people, no matter what it was, my mind was proliferating with what Lama used to call namtok. Okay, it's a Tibetan word, namtok, which can mean different things in different situations. But Lama used it to mean, he called it superstitious thoughts. Okay, so what he meant by superstitious thoughts were things that were not true that you believed anyway. Okay, so namtok, how we, you know, when our mind is under the control of afflictions, our mind proliferates with all sorts of false things. We are thinking in a totally nutty way, okay? And keep it simple, dear, was like, stop the proliferation of all these kinds of thoughts. I need this, I want that, it's not fair, they got it, I didn't get it, I should have it too. You know, why am I always this and that and the other? You know, it was like, keep it simple, dear. Stop those thoughts. And that was, you know, and continues to be a very, very strong thing that I use in my practice when my mind gets crazy. Okay. Just keep it simple, dear. Yeah, because I mean, we all know when our mind gets crazy, what happens. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's see, another story I'm thinking of. So remember, you know, we're this, going back to the days in Kopan, we're this motley group, you know, stumbling up the hill from Freak Street. And, you know, we all want to be yogis in the mountains and attain enlightenment in that life. And so we want to be ascetic. So, you know, Kopan in those days was pretty ascetic. You know, for dinner, yeah, before, you know, when you were a lay person, you got one piece of bread. Yeah. And we were Westerners, so we got pampered. The boys got a roti, you know, one piece of bread. We got a piece of bread and a scoop of peanut butter. The boys, the little monks, did not get the scoop of peanut butter. So Lama pampered us. That was the dinner. Okay, so, and then, you know, the tent in those days where they had the November course, it was, you know, the metal roof, and then the sides were all grass mats. The floor was grass mats. The fleas loved that place because they could, you know, live in the grass mats and bite all the you know, the people in the course and get their nourishment whenever they wanted. So, but you know, we were ascetics. Yeah. And so I remember one time, because we were, he had the Sangha sleeping, we were in the, I think Kopan used to be some place where there was astrologers. So the astrologer's house or whatever it was. So the floor was brick, cold brick. Yeah. So there was one monk there, and he put his grass mat, and he was sleeping on the grass mat. A few of us went in for luxury, and we had these very thin kind of foam mats, but it was definitely much better than the grass mat on the cold brick floor. So Lama, from time to time, he would walk around the monastery and go in people's rooms and inspect what was going on. And when we were doing our different jobs, see what we were doing and all. So he went into this room, and this monk had just one grass mat. And Lama said to him, stop the ascetic trip. Because he was always calling us out on our trips, and he just said, stop your ascetic trip, go get a foam mat. And so, but again, you see that this ability he had to exactly tune in to where somebody was at and say it in the very direct but kind way, where you knew what he was talking about and you didn't feel hurt. You might have been shaken up because, he caught us in our namtok, yeah, but we never felt humiliated. Okay, so he said, stop this ascetic trip. Cut it. Let's see what else there is. I wrote a few things down. Oh, how Lama thought about about relying on a spiritual mentor. This part is really important. So, now very often it's translated. The Tibetan term is Lama Tenpa. Okay, if you translate it literally, it means relying or depending on a spiritual mentor. How it's often translated is guru devotion. I don't think that's a good translation, because in English, first of all, we hear guru and it's like, oh, this is some magical, person in India who's like levitating or, something like that. And then devotion, you just throw yourself on the floor and you just like, I'm devoted, whatever you say to do, I'll do. Okay, so it's often actually even taught in that way, okay? But that was not Lama's approach. Yeah, he did not like this Ali Ali Salami, I'm, bowing at your feet, you're such a high guru. He did not like that. Yeah, he was very, very practical. And, but everybody, there was this culture at that time, was whenever you had a personal decision to make, you tried to go see Lama, to ask him what to do. Lama, my visa's expiring. What do I do? Do I go to India? Do I go back to my country? Do I go to China? What do I do? Lama, my little toe hurts. Do I go to the doctor? Do I put a bandage on my little toe? What do I do? And Lama did not like this at all. Okay. Rinpoche would always, do a mo and tell you what to do. But Lama, no. Okay. And I remember Lama standing there one time, and who knows what somebody had just asked him, but he was clearly like tired of this. And he said, use your own wisdom, dear. The next thing I know, you're going to ask me where to go pee-pee. Yeah. Use your own wisdom. And he was always emphasizing that. Use your own wisdom. Yeah. Don't come to me saying, Lama, where do I go pee-pee? With all these small things in your life that you should be able to figure out for yourself. Yeah. Along the same line, I can tell you another story. Alex Berzin, who I'm sure many of you know, was translator for the previous Senshub Circum Rinpoche. And Alex was having, he was living in Dharamsala, and his landlord, he was renting a room, and he was having problems with his landlord. So he went to see Circum Rinpoche. You know, Rinpoche, I have problems with my landlord over the rent and da. What do I do? And Circum Rinpoche looked at him and said, go talk to a lawyer. You know, it was like, you know, what do you want from me? I'm here to lead you to awakening. My job is not to tell you how to deal with your landlord or where to go pee-pee or where to have your visa renewed. You're an adult, you know, figure these things out for yourself, okay? And learn from your own experience. So Lama was very much like that. I remember there was another situation where there was one Geshe who was living, the Geshe, there's a stupa for him in Tushita. I can't remember his name at this moment. I can't read your lips.
Geshe Wangdu?
Yes, Geshe Wangdu. Yeah, Geshe Wangdu. So he had been living nearby, and Rinpoche had a parent, Rinpoche was talking to Lama at Tushita, and Rinpoche was saying, I want to go visit Geshe Champa Wangdu, and I'm going to do a mo to see if he's there. And Lama said, oh, I just came back from visiting him. Yeah. So they had really different views about mo's and things like that, you know. Lama said, you don't need to throw a mo. I just came back from visiting him. Okay, so it was interesting to see, you know, that Rinpoche, as you know, so devoted to Lama, but they also had their own ways of guiding people, their own ways of explaining the teachings, you know, and it's not contradictory, because when you're dealing with human beings, people have so many different dispositions and interests, and the skillful teachers know how to deal with different kinds of people. Okay. And that's what you really saw with Lama. You know, the people who didn't think they could do something, Lama sent them to do it. The people who were too overconfident, Lama would give them some, you know, smaller things to do. Okay, and the people, some of the people, you know, because there was always the in crowd. Yeah, you know, with the lamas, you know, there's always the in crowd. The disciples who are close to the lamas, who get to hang out with them, who write their letters and travel with them and deliver the Lama's messages to the other students and get to do puja with them and everything like that. So I was not one of those people. Okay, I was not on the in crowd. Yeah, and I was so jealous. And it took me years to realize this was jealousy, because I thought it was just, I was sitting there going, it's not fair. You know, I want to learn from the lamas too. And you can learn so much by just observing how people act and what they do, how they act in real situations. And I want to, you know, I want to be near them so I could learn in this way. And I never really had the chance like the in people did, really burning. So years later, I figured out that was jealousy. Took me a while. But I remember one time Lama was teaching, and he said, you know, sometimes the Lamas keep closest to them the disciples that are the biggest disasters, because they need the most help. And some of the people in the in crowd around Lama were really wonderful people. Some of them, in my humble opinion, were disasters. So I always thought, why is Lama keeping these people nearby? You know, I could do that job much better. And when he said that, it really made me go, oh, so maybe Lama sending me to Italy, maybe him asking me to work as SPC, because these jobs, I didn't want to do them. I wanted to be near my Lamas and take teachings and meditate. And it made me think, oh, maybe that was actually the Lamas showing that they had some trust in me. Maybe I wasn't the biggest disaster. Maybe the next biggest disaster, but not the biggest one. I needed to be near them all the time. Okay. So that was something that kind of eased my mind a little bit. But yeah. Okay. What else? Let's see. Oh, Lama, when we would ask him about becoming a refugee, yeah, after the Chinese took over Tibet, then he said the most astounding things that had us all really shocked. Is we said, what was it like to be a refugee? He put his palms together and he said, I have to thank Mao Zedong for teaching me what the real meaning of Dharma practice is. Put his palms together. I have to thank Mao Zedong for what he did. What? Because Lama said, if Mao Zedong had not come in, you know, and his armies had now come in and taken over Tibet, he said, I would have gone back to my village, gotten my Geshe degree at Sarah, gone back to my village, and I would have become a village Lama. And everybody, you know, in your village, they come, they make offerings, they ask you to do some puja or, you know, do some mo. And he said, I would have become so fat and spoiled with all the villagers coming and just asking me to do puja and giving me lots of offerings. I would have never understood what it really meant to practice the Dharma and transform your mind, and especially to practice the Lojong teachings of transforming suffering into the path. He said, I never would have learned that. And it was due to the kindness of Mao Zedong that I learned what it really meant to practice the Buddha's teachings. And here was Lama, you know, that when there was the uprising on March 10th, that's coming up, the anniversary is coming up, he and a lot of monks from Sarah, they took their bowls, their wooden bowls, because as a Tibetan monk, your wooden bowl was your most precious possession. That and your mala and your robes, okay? Because that's how you drunk tea, where you made your sampa, everything. So they took their bowls, they went up to the mountains, Lama explained, and they thought they would be in the mountains above Sarah just for a couple of days until things calmed down, and then they would go back to Sarah. And that's not what happened. Okay, there was the abortive uprising. Lhasa was in turmoil. They heard that His Holiness had escaped. So they all crossed over the Himalayas in March when it's freezing cold, and crossed over and went into exile in India. And they were sent to Buxa, the old British POW camp. If you ever saw 7 Years in Tibet about Heinrich Herr, this was where he had been imprisoned. It was a British POW camp. So Lama wound up going there. And then that's, I think, where Rinpoche was sent to him, and Rinpoche became his student. And Lama was studying with Geshe Zopa at that time. So, he said, by going through all that difficulty, I really learned, what it meant to practice the Dharma, to deal with my anger, to transform every situation, to not be discouraged, to not blame other people, to be able to keep a happy mind, even in the case, in situations that were very dire. Okay. And he said, I have to thank Mount Zedong for that. So I didn't become some spoiled fat Lama. It's totally amazing, how he did that. Okay, another thing that I want to just share about Lama is one time I got to be the person who helped him with the translation. Okay, so we were working on this translation of part of Uttanamche. He was teaching Maitreya's text, Uttanamche, and Lama would kind of read something and then talk about it in Lama's English, and then I would try and write it down in kind of what I understood in regular English. Okay, and so we were working on this, and what happened is one person after another would come in, Lama's abbot. They would come into his room. Lama, what do I do? Okay, and this was the Tibetans would come in and the Ingis would come in, because Lama Lundrup was helping to teach the boys. Lama Pasang was there, and they all needed help with different things. So everybody's coming in, asking Lama a question. We're trying to translate this text. Okay, coming in, answering, this is falling apart. Lama, what did I do? He would say something. Somebody else would come in, Lama, Lama would give an answer. They would leave. Somebody else would come in, they're crying, and Lama would take care of them. And we're trying to translate this text, and constant interruption. But what was so remarkable is every single person that came in, Lama talked to them. He understood each person. Some people he was very sympathetic with. Some people he just gave them a direct answer, do this, and sent them on their way. And he always came back to exactly the point we were in the text where we were translating. He didn't lose his place at all. And people were coming in, dumping their emotional or intellectual confusion on Lama, but none of that affected him. And I had the image that it was like water off a duck's back. If you've ever seen a duck swimming in a pond, duck goes underwater, he's all wet, all the water just slides off, doesn't affect the duck at all. And this was the way it was with all these interruptions and all these people with their different things that they wanted and needed and so on. He dealt with it, and none of it stuck. None of it affected him in the sense of he didn't, start feeling, worried because somebody else was worried, or depressed because somebody else was depressed, or excited because somebody, else was excited. Nothing. He was constantly, he was balanced when all of that stuff happened. Okay. Then one more thing I want to say, and then I see that it's kind of time for us to call it to an end. So when I met the Dharma, I was married, and my ex-husband is on this call right now. And so I remember one time when Lama was coming to France, and I hadn't been in touch with Bob for, my mother introduced him to somebody, and he married her, and they have a wonderful marriage and 3 kids. Okay, so I hadn't seen him and for some time, but he's a Dharma student. So Lama said to me, how's your previous life husband? Previous life? And he said, yeah, you were married to him before, that was your previous life before you ordained. But Lama always had a very special place in his heart for Bob. Yeah, and really cared for him, because it was hard for Bob. I kind of picked up and got ordained, and I'm really grateful you never tried to stop me or hindered me at all. But Lama had a very special place in his heart for you. So I think you need to remember that. Yeah. Okay. So with that, tomorrow, same time, same place. Yeah, different topic.
Thank you.
Tomorrow we're talking about miracles, which I don't believe in, but we'll talk about them anyway. Okay, let's dedicate. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. Okay. Thank you, everybody. And hasta mañana.
Thank you so much, Venerable Thubten Chödron La. Hasta mañana. See you tomorrow. Thank you so much for the.
Thank you, Venerable Thubten.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. And thank you so much to our kind translators, Venerable Sayana, translating into Italian, and Venerable Kunsangla into Portuguese. Thank you so much, and see you all tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.